Call the meeting in order and welcome everybody to the May 26, 2026 council work session. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councillor Nunnally.
Aye. Here.
Councillor Walker.
Here.
Councillor Gabrielle. Councillor Blink.
Here.
Councillor Dowd.
Here.
Councillor Waterman.
Here.
Councillor Fisher.
Here.
Councillor Left.
And related to downtown that ties into some potential recommendations, just really to move the needle. As you're aware, the council approved the downtown plan almost a decade ago that really talked about a lot of the same issues, parking and availability and the perceptions of parking and all of that. And not a lot has changed in that time. Certainly the council did approve the parking garage, which would add supply. However, that hasn't come under construction at this point in time. But the Parking Advisory Board did review the strategies put in place by Downtown Kalispell Forward and did forward a number of recommendations. I know that they didn't pick up every recommendation that's within the document that I know they would like to present to the council as well. So really don't have any formal recommendation for you tonight, looking for guidance based off of the recommendations to you, and then staff can take those and put together any necessary changes to the city code we would need to. But mainly, certainly looking at the LPR, which we talked a bit about during budget discussion, increased fines, and block-based restrictions is what's coming from the Parking Advisory Board. And I'll also turn it over to Chief Jordan, to do a brief summary, and then we're here for any discussions. Bill Mosley here with Downtown Kalispell Forward can also do a brief presentation with what their strategies are and go from there. Chief.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't have a ton to add. As far as the police department goes, our biggest concern is staffing, efficiencies, and technology. So really after you guys have a chance to look over the strategies being proposed, we're here for any questions you have of kind of how that would operate within the department, how it impacts staffing and budgets and those types of questions. Happy to answer, but I think once we get into the conversation, I can be of more help to you there.
Great, thank you. What I'd like to do is open it up to Downtown Kalispell Forward to make their presentation of their proposal, and then open it up to rest of public comment, and then we can move into questions and discussion after that. If that works. Bill.
Thank you all very much. I am Bill Mosley. I'm the chairperson for the Downtown Kalispell Forward, which is, we've talked about before, it's a coalition of a variety of groups, the realtors, the builders, chambers, the Downtown Association, and the KBID downtown. And we're taking up a number of issues. We have 4 different committees. One of them happens to deal with infrastructure. And the number one issue within infrastructure that was brought, we need a solution to make parking more convenient downtown. And one of the things, this is actually I'm unfortunate soul, I've done 3 parking studies. It's not really my daytime job to be a parking consultant, but somehow I get roped into these things. One of them is a university, one is in the city of Bend, and then here. And one of the things I find is that in a parking proposal, there's something for everyone to dislike. And it seems to always be true. And so it's really easy, and the counsel that I give, or the advice I give to the council, it's really easy to pick something apart. There's something in it that every single person is going to disagree with. And even when we're reviewing it amongst ourselves, we propose there's like a 2-hour limit on parking or 90 minutes downtown. And Jane over at the Community College Speaks Up says, well, I get my hair done downtown. It takes like 3 hours. I'm like, well, we're not going to meet every single need that there is in the entire world. So I'm sure there'll be something in it where you'll say, oh, I don't quite like that thing. It's really about the whole package. Ultimately, we need a comprehensive solution, and there'll be some things that are a little uncomfortable and don't make the good the enemy, or the perfect the enemy of the good. So I would encourage you to take a comprehensive approach to it. The other thing I would say about parking is that every parking proposal is specific to the actual need of the community. So a Bozeman or Missoula are just going to have really different parking needs than Kalispell has. Our primary issue is not a lack of actual parking. It's a perception of parking that makes it inconvenient for people to be able to shop downtown. And so they go out to the mall and some other places. But downtown is actually the heart of our community. There's a lot of small businesses down there. We want to revitalize the downtown and improve the local economy. And so our job isn't to, a parking garage would be great. I wish we needed one, frankly. I wish we had terrible parking problems downtown, because that would be a sign of economic vitality in the center of our community. I think that'd be ideal, but we'd have a whole separate other set of issues. Right now, we have some pretty simple issues, thankfully. We don't need a $20 million garage this minute to solve our parking problems. We need to be able to tell people where the parking is available, get employees off of the main streets themselves onto the periphery streets, and then more fully utilize some of the open parking lots that really aren't utilized right now at all. And so that's at a high level. The suggestions we have don't cost millions of dollars. Even the signage is in the tens of thousands. We've talked to the KBID, and they have funds to be able to support some of these efforts. So it's a relatively low-cost effort for the city as a whole. And so I'll get into some of the recommendations. I think they're on the board, and you guys may have those. The first one of these recommendations, and I appreciate the work that the Parking Advisory Board did. They focused on enforcement. It's parking, like so many things, is a supply and demand issue. Yes, we need to address both sides of it. We do need problems with the enforcement, but we also need to open up some of the supply. If you force the employees off by ticketing them from downtown, they're going to have to go someplace. We have a lot of supply. Make that supply available to them. Make it easy to do that. And so I'll go through each one of these items. The first one is the recommendations is to make the Valley Bank parking lot free to the public. If you do the surveys that we've done of the parking lots, I think there's about 9 that the city actually owns. There's a map of them in this study. Most of them are dramatically underutilized, even when they're oversold. And so when you peg a specific number of cars that can only park in that exact lot, what you end up with is a lot of excess parking that no one's utilizing, but people still complaining about a lack of parking. So that just doesn't make sense. The Valley Bank is in a key location downtown, and it could be easily used for customer parking instead. Just open it up to the public. I think there's 30-some spaces in that particular lot that would increase supply. We agree. The second recommendation is to procure a modern software system that makes it so that you can do license plate recognition. So if the police department can efficiently drive by, tell who's just rocking and rolling in their car, moving it forward 100 feet or whatever, so they can park. Those are the employees typically, and then re-ticket them. Right now, the ticket's $10, and you can park the entire day. And it's not a parking fine. It's a permit. Essentially, it's like your one day. In a lot of cities, that's all that it would be. Provide free. The third one is provide free unlimited permits that are valid for any of the city lots. So, I would encourage the city to get out of the business of micromanaging who can park in exactly which spaces. If you want to provide free public employee parking, then do that and make it flexible and let people choose a lot that's close to them. I don't think anyone drives downtown because there's free parking available to them. I think they drive downtown because they have to be downtown, and that's because they're working or they're shopping. And so make those lots available for people in a more unrestricted way. There's some dialogue about, should parking be scarce and should we charge for parking and that sort of thing. And I think that there is a debate to be had about that, but I think it's a debate for when we have parking scarcity, not an overabundance of parking. So it's something that we can revisit in the future, and hopefully we have to. Convert the on-street parking on Main Street and between First Avenue West and East to a consistent zone. We suggest 90 minutes. It could be 2 hours. It probably doesn't matter in the scheme of things. You want someone to be able to go down, be able to have lunch over at the bistro or wherever they are, and be able to get in and out there, do their shopping at their places. But you don't want the employees to stick in those spaces for long periods. And you want consistency so that people can actually understand the overall system. When they go down there, they just know what to expect. And from a customer perspective, that makes it convenient. There probably are a couple of places like near the library and county building, City Hall, the post office, where you do want some quick 30-minute turn lots or even 15 minutes, and that would be okay. But don't have 5 different types of 90 minutes here and 20 minutes here, and then there's this loading zone there, and that just confuses the person who's trying to look for a space. Working with the tourism board, we want to be able to improve the signage downtown. Downtown is a place; it's a destination. I don't think anyone here wants it overrun. You know, we don't want to turn it into whitefish. It's not our objective. But we do want a sense of place that this is the center of our community, and it should be identifiable, and there should be a consistent set of signs, and it trains people's eyes to know where to look for the different types of parking they have. So we think that just some simple paint and that kind of stuff could help with that. Replace the existing signs with high contrast. We talked about that. Allow the city-owned downtown lots to be leased on weekends to organizations at a nominal fee. So one of the key problems we really have downtown is a lack of foot traffic, a lack of customers actually coming down on the weekends and during the week. There's a lot of things that go into that. But one of them is the restrictions on some of these lots. So, you know, if someone wants to have a market downtown, then make it easy for them to have a market downtown. There's no harm in having events in the center of our community. There's some restrictions on that right now. It's important when we make all these changes, people are going to be kind of confused. The employees will be, and they might be upset, and business owners might wonder, where do my customers go, and all this. So the downtown Kalispell Forward will help with this, but to do a communication strategy so we can get the word out. We can tell employees, you can't park right on Main Street, but there's a lot. It's like a block away. We'll distribute flyers and say, this is, the closest place to you so that you can actually, it doesn't have to be inconvenient. We'll do that outreach. And then we've identified some of the funding sources, like I discussed earlier. And then there's some opportunity for public-private partnerships as well on the use of private lots. So Mike over at Glacier approached me after one of our meetings and said, hey, the Glacier only uses its lot during the business hours, essentially. And if the city wanted to put up signs saying it's open after 5 p.m., great, we're all for that. And so there's some solutions like that where we could partner, especially with some of the banks who have some of the larger lots in the downtown core. So that's the gist of it. I respect what the Parking Advisory Board did, and I think they made some good recommendations. And in addition to those, I would say, not only on the enforcement side, let's increase some of the supply. And I think luckily, we don't have a $20 million problem to solve that problem right now. I hope we do someday, but that's not the key thing. And this will change. This is something we can do in a year. It'd be a nice win for council. I think people would almost immediately notice the difference on parking downtown. I really think that, like, in very short order, you could make these changes so that people would start having a different shopping experience. And then in a year or 2 years, as the economic climate changes downtown, we can approach the problems that exist at that time and find additional solutions to those. Take any questions or anything people have? Go for it.
Hi. So, in your talks about paid parking, what was it looked upon favorably or unfavorably? Did they think it was not needed at this time? What was the story?
Like
with the paid
meters
parking?
versus non-meters and
Yes.
that kind of thing. We don't believe it's necessary right now. If you're rationing the space because you have too many cars and not enough spaces, meters might be an appropriate solution to encourage people to move on. At this time, there's simply just not enough shoppers to utilize the parking that's available to us. It's just not the right solution. I've been involved in a couple of those other items on meters in the past, and they can be very contentious. It would require a lot more outreach over time. It can also be expensive, and technology in this area is changing quickly. On the meter side, our position wasn't to support meters right now. We just didn't think it was the right solution. We want to make it as easy as possible to come down there. If that's,
Gotcha.
yeah. The funny thing is people will walk like a block and a half at Walmart to get to some place, but you tell them they've got to walk, 750 feet or something from their store downtown. Like, oh, it's just too far.
Other questions for Mr. Mosley? I had a couple quick questions. So, what I appreciate about this plan is kind of the idea of trying it out and adjusting as we collect more data, specifically with the new technology. But the concern with the wayfinding signage, because I could see us putting the money, getting the signs, and then we collect data and we decide to go a different direction. All of a sudden, we need different signs. Did you think about that in terms of, is it low enough cost? It's like, well, we'll just cover replacing those signs, or
That's what we're thinking right now, is that the cost isn't actually that large for the signs that we have. There's not consistent signage right now, and so it's a problem that we currently face. It's confusing. They're different colors, different, time limits and that sort of thing. And so we think it's worth the investment to make to get them to be consistent, and at a future time, if we need to adjust that, then we could do the same thing then. And the funds right now are coming from would come from the K-bid.
And then the kind of outreach relies significantly both on both parties, but significantly on the city as well with the website. So I guess this is a question for staff, but just in terms of the ability, reviewing their plan, does staff feel comfortable about the staff commitment to the outreach side, the websites, and the sort of thing that's been proposed in the plan?
Yeah, I would say it's nice having a partner, the ability, as Bill mentioned, to, in the end, it's going to be the face-to-face with these business owners. And through the K-bid and the T-bid, that conduit to the business owners is going to be key. That's the one thing the city doesn't always have, is that face-to-face with them. So having a partner, I don't see an issue. Staff as well has always, through surveys and our planning efforts had that as well. But the outreach and any changes would certainly be an important aspect, and we're here to support that. So.
It's a win, frankly, for both organizations, for the chamber and for the city. One of the messages that we got from some of the business owners was that no one was listening to them. Whether that's true or not, that was by and large the perception, is that people weren't listening. And this is a really visible thing both for the chamber and for the city to say, well, we went door to door, we asked you, we're going to give you feedback, we're going to communicate exactly what's going to be done, and you'll be able to see a tangible difference coming up. And so we hope it changes some of the perception that no one is paying attention to their concerns.
Mr. Waterman.
And I think this might be more of a question for staff, but where are we with the Valley Bank lot? I mean, right now we have an RFP for future construction, but that's not happening today. And then where are we with the permitting? Because I know at one point it was pretty limited. We were just doing it out for a year or so. Do we have multi-year permits out there?
So when you say permitting, you're not permitting you're talking about just parking permits?
Parking permits.
Okay,
yeah.
we have that information. The Valley Bank lot, what we call, it's essentially got development rights on it for another couple years, but at the same time, it's a city lot, and the city can do with it what they want in the interim. Certainly, if they were to, and there is permits within that lot, so any path forward, there'll be a transition time of those permits maybe being moved to other city lots. That would have to happen, but the city would have the ability to do that. And if such time the Charles Hotel or any of those groups were to submit a building permit, we would have the ability to transition at that time. But at this point, it's still speculative, and we were having to plan for that regardless. If they were to come in and pull or submit building permits and start construction, we are going to have to relocate those permits as it is. So regarding permit information, the chief has that.
Yeah, so as a whole, the city has 329 capacity parking spaces in lots. We've sold 314 spaces. The Valley Bank lot specifically is 100% capacity. It's oversold by 45 out of 44. The only lot that is significantly undersold is the Eagles lot. It's at 43% of spaces are leased out. Most of them are close to full capacity, and 7 of the lots have no waiting list, meaning there's no people waiting to buy permits, but 4 of the lots have large waiting lists for people on permits.
And despite the capacity issue, if you actually drive by at a given period of time, the lot is 2/3 empty. It's difficult to match that exactly and to know how much to oversell it and to restrict it in that way and get it just right.
And we would concur with that. That's the main thing is even though even with the permits we have, we're not 100% sold out. Depending on the lot and the location, some of them are more desirable, but even in those ones that are 100% sold out, if you're to go to them, they're not going to be fully utilized. We've done a number of parking studies that show that. They did it with their own parking study recently as well, so it's been that way forever. And our speculation is it is because people have permits and they park on the street. they're not actually utilizing their permit. So not only have they bought a permit, but they park on the street, enforcement is limited. So if we had the technology and could enforce the 2 hours and the fee were more than $10, that they would use their permit, park off the street, which then would open the parking up on the streets. At least that would be the thought process at this point, because we really have not had true 2-hour parking enforcement. So,
And I would concur as being somebody who's had one of those spaces. I was in the Eagles lot. If there's other spaces available, I parked there and then would move into it. That was my plan B. So I'm one of those violators, and I do think that there was definitely room for that. And I definitely think that I know that very true. And the Valley Bank parking lot is very empty most of the time.
Regarding the permits, how much is a permit? Is it renewed every year? And when you're talking about the waiting list, what lots are those and how long are those?
So permit fees are $18 to $30 a month, roughly. And you get a little bit of a discount if you do 6 months or more at a time. So roughly that, each lot is a little bit different. As far as, did you say the waiting list lots?
Yeah.
They have waiting lists at Mountain Valley, Central School, O'Neill Lot, and the Keno Lot. So Mountain Valley is off 3rd and 4th East. The Keno Lot is 2nd Street West, 2nd Ave West. The O'Neill Lot is Coulter Coffee, South Main and 4th. And what was the other one? Central School.
That picture is a good representation of capacity. I mean, honestly, it's not.
Yeah,
it's
so like
not
the
far off.
Mountain Valley lot, for example, my business is just kitty corner to that lot. And as Bill was saying, it is, often at pretty significantly under capacity, even during the middle of the day. But so what is the waiting list for, let's say, the Mountain Valley lot? Is it pretty significant? I don't need exact numbers. I'm just wondering if there's significant turnover or people are just kind of holding on to these because they're a hot commodity.
Several year waiting list for them to open up.
and that was one thing in, after the downtown plan, the parking advisory board they've started overselling those lots. So I'm not sure what they're selling them at, whether it's 110 or 120%, but we noticed that as well. It's not full. It's like, we'll start to oversell it to get it full, and even though we're overselling it, it's still not full. So.
They seem like a liquor license. They're so few and far between. You hold on to them as long as you possibly can.
Yeah. So first, Bill, thank you so much for putting all the work in. I know you had a team of people doing this, and you've, as you said, a day job. Really appreciate that. I like a lot of what I'm really supportive of the thoughtfulness that you put in. I'm curious, when you look at the list of recommendations, is there any research on what is the best implementation plan in terms of what comes first that the public will be, so we can learn together, as
Yeah.
opposed, is it to do it all? Is it to do one thing at a time, and if so, which ones?
You want to make the lots available
Okay.
before you start enforcing fines, and then do a transition on the fines where maybe you do warnings at the beginning instead of citing people immediately, so you can start to do it. Before that, you'd want to do the communication outreach piece of it. And they're actually, a little bit later in the report, there is kind of a timeline and a proposed sequencing, and the downtown Kalispell Forward would help to roll those things out with the city, so we could communicate directly to the business owners, so nobody's surprised and angry, like, oh, what's this ticket that I got? That kind of thing.
And it's based on having been done in other cities, I guess that's what I was
Yeah,
wondering. Okay.
that's right. And there's also a bunch of other research in here from other cities and the kind of solutions, just to show, like, there are a lot of solutions in the parking arena, like a lot of different ideas, and we can borrow the best from some of the various cities in the
And
sequencing.
which city would you say we're most like?
Butte, or,
Oh.
like somebody where the parking isn't, like, we don't have a lot of parking demand. That's the problem. We're not Whitefish, right?
And then my last question is, if we were to roll this out, and I'm thinking about that weekend nonprofit, have towns done something to try and kick this off in a positive way? Are there examples of that? So
Yeah, the downtown Kalispell Ford actually had, one of our subcommittees is around events, so that we can actually bring people in and start scheduling regular, 4 or 5 a year in the beginning. And so there's a committee that are done, and many communities actually do this. We have a special problem because we've got a highway running through it, so you have to,
yeah.
mark off the highway, and that makes like the Valley Bank lot would be a great place to put booths, for instance, if you wanted to have like small mom and pop merchant type things in that particular area. And they wanted to do, was it Frosty the Brewfest, I think is another one that they wanted to bring downtown, and there's a variety of events that they'd like to organize. It will be a partner on that too.
So that, in regards to that bullet point, engage in public-private partnerships to allow for usage of the lots. We don't disagree with that either. I would say it actually came up to me last November. There was a group that wanted to use the Valley Bank lot for like a Christmas market over the holidays, which certainly some activity there over the holidays would be a good thing, but we don't have a policy or a rule for city lots. We have our vending permit, and we have things regarding to our parks, and then we have a fee schedule for our parks, but a fee schedule wouldn't really apply for use in a parking lot. And it actually came up recently, somebody wanted to do a food truck in the city lot. I was like, well, we can't do that. Our fee schedule, the way it's set up, is usually for a long weekend or a weekend. It wouldn't apply to long-term. So certainly that would be a worthy discussion, probably a bigger discussion outside of this, but that's a good topic as well. Like, how else could city lots be utilized? There's positives and negatives to that. Allowing a bunch of food trucks on a city lot potentially undercuts brick and mortar, and then
Right.
people invest a lot of money into their businesses as well, right? So you gotta really think through all that. I know in Whitefish had one of their lots, there was a hotel plan on that lot as well, and in the interim, with the economy, knowing construction costs and things, they kind of have created it into a basically a little parklet with some shops and things like that. But at this point in time, our existing rules wouldn't apply to that. Our fee structure need to be looked at, our vending permit and all that, so.
So would that be an ordinance we'd have to pass, or what would be that approach?
It's mainly be the fee schedule and just a general policy in regards to how it works, insurance, all the fun things.
Yeah, well, I'm even thinking solid waste, though. There's debris, there's cleanup, there's security. And I'm just curious, my last question is, how does that map onto your resources?
As far as if they utilized a city lot for that, I think it would be no different than any private area doing it.
Mr. Nunley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I zeroed in on that too, because we certainly can use more space for events. We do over 750 events at the fairgrounds each year. And yes, there's definitely space and capacity in our community for that. So I like that. I would want to make sure, though, that we are making sure we cover our costs for trash and for any legal reasons on the insurances, because I know there is some state rulings on that for public property. So definitely, I think I would support something there. My next question probably is more for chief and legal staff, maybe. License plate readers are not something I generally have really liked. But I can see how in this capacity it could be a workable thing. What are the controls with the product that we can ensure that there's not an overreach on getting information as you're doing the patrols?
So LPRs can be used for a variety of law enforcement purposes. I think the first step we would do is to look at Montana Code Annotated specifically on how LPR can be laid out. Within that, council and city staff will be forced to write policy on LPR to lay out specifically how we will use it, how it's audited, how many users have access to it, where the information goes, what exactly is stored. That will all be controlled by policy in compliance with MCA and reviewed by legal. So I think that would be the first step, is getting that on paper of what approach we would take, and then it'll just be a management purpose from that point, just making sure we're following those policies each year.
And then I noticed in your report, and I really appreciated it, of working with the businesses and the employees of downtown. Are you guys, if we go down this path, are you guys really going to be that conduit to those employees to really find out, okay, why are you not parking correctly?
100%. Yeah, it's a solution we all need. The businesses themselves need their employees to park off the street, and ultimately we don't. We want a vibrant downtown where people feel heard and have places to to park and that sort of thing. So yeah, 100%.
Okay.
It will go around again. I think we've done 2 walking tours now.
Okay.
If I recall from the where we've actually gone through and talked to each one of the businesses. We have several more planned, and so we'll reach out, produce flyers, send newsletters out, emails, all that kind of stuff.
They've all been very receptive, I suppose.
Mostly so. If there's 2 things that we hear about, like the parking, and then there's also some action on the Kalispell cruise, which is another set of contentious issues with a lot of different opinions. And I won't go into that right now. But they feel like they're getting heard. People have concerns about those issues, and they feel like that people are listening.
Good. Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much. There's a few people here from the coalition too, and recognize them. Thanks for coming down, and appreciate all you guys' time. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mosley. Yeah, I appreciate the detail and work that went into this proposal. Obviously, a lot of effort went into it. One question before we get to further public comment. I know we talked about with previous parking enforcement, the 2-hour, basically we could only do a check like twice a day. So an 8-hour day, maybe they're getting like 4 hours out of that, supposed 2-hour parking limit. If we go to the new technology and we move to a 90-minute limit, is that even realistic? Can we check enough that we're enforcing a 90-minute limit?
So I would say the benefit of utilizing technology allows us to be more flexible and have a little further windows. If the officer wasn't able to get there for 100 minutes or 115 minutes, because it's all digital and tracked and photographed, the evidence would still exist where that wouldn't be a problem. As far as the old process with chalking, another issue with that, not only would you only have a $10 ticket per day. For example, Helena has LPR technology, and I think a similar software. It's all pay parking at $8 a day. So essentially what Kalispell was doing is $10 a day paid parking via tickets is all that was happening. So this would allow someone who is violating to not know exactly when the officer is coming around to check, because Dave had to be so regimented of when he left to chalk, when he had to check the chalk. So they would just simply wait till they saw him pass. They would have a 4-hour window at that point before they had to worry about it.
Okay. All right, I'll open up to public comment. Anyone wishing to address the council on this item, please step to the mic and state your name, or raise your hand if you're online.
Greetings, council. My name's Chris Hall. I live at 115 West Evergreen Drive. And I came in a little late, but I think I understand what you guys are looking over here. And I think Bill summed it up pretty good. Parking's really not that big of an issue. If you're willing to walk a block or two, which is nothing, you can always find parking downtown. So as an onlooker, this might be another place you're wasting money on doing all these reports and whatnot, but it brought up something that is much needed. The LPR is something that we do need in our town, in our community, and mainly because we have issues with aggressive driving, people not following the laws, and the laws not being enforced on driving in our communities anymore. I live on West Evergreen Drive. I live close to the road, and I would say the average speed on that road is 40 miles an hour, and it's 25 in front of my house. There's no sidewalks. There's no place for kids getting out of school to walk safely, other pedestrians. And I actually, last Friday, I was out mowing my yard, and excuse me, I watched my mailbox get ran over right in front of me. And I called and I spoke to Highway Patrol. Well, actually, I called Sheriff's Department first, and then they transferred me to Highway Patrol. It's not the first time I've called in about crazy driving on that road. If you sit out there for 30 minutes, you'll see somebody hit the jets and go 60, 70 miles per hour. That's reckless. That's scary. And my road's not the only one. This is like a grand mal, widespread type of an issue that has to be tackled. I've spoken to all law enforcement departments, and everyone tells me the same thing, that they are understaffed, they don't have enough money, they don't have enough people to actually enforce the law anymore. They have more bigger priorities than pulling somebody over for excessive speeding. So LPR, don't waste money on this for this thing, but implement it everywhere. Europe's been using that technology for 30 years. You want to make revenue, you're going to go spend money on a program, right? To get $15, $10 tickets. Why not have it in places that will enforce the law, make people drive safe, and be sending them tickets in the mail? I mean, if we can't do it by vehicles the old-fashioned way and enforce the law, implement LPR, make a new revenue stream, and do something better for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Mayor Hunter, Council, I appreciate your tackling this ancient problem. When my family moved to Kalispell in '68, my mom opened a shop on Main Street, and the problem that they were faced with was a perception of lack of parking, and they blamed it on what I think we still call rock and rollers. Employees who wait for their tire to get marked and then will move forward 4 feet and get the tire marked again, and they can go forward and backward all day long and never leave Main Street. And I'm a board member of the Kalispell Business Improvement District. I'm involved with the Downtown Forward Coalition, and I spent a couple of afternoons talking to business owners and property owners as part of the information gathering for the information that that Bill presented earlier. And I have to tell you, I don't think that parking was never not mentioned. Every single business owner and property owner mentioned parking. And some people were adamant and some people were just simply shrugging their shoulders and saying, well, you know, that's the way it is. It's never going to change. And I honestly, I totally agree with Bill. I wish we had a parking problem. I truly did. As a property owner and a former business owner downtown, I really wish we had an honest-to-goodness parking problem. We don't. We have a parking perception problem. And I do want to say that in speaking with, I don't know, 2 or 3 dozen property owners in downtown Kalispell and looking at the information that Bill presented earlier, I don't think there was one objection that I heard that would not be solved by implementing that program. So I urge you to take a look at it closely and seriously. You guys are here to serve your constituents, and they're living with the belief that there's a parking problem. And I think that there are solutions that can happen pretty quickly. And I hope you can move forward. Thanks for tackling it.
And your name for the record.
Oh, Marshall Noyce, sorry.
I think we all know you.
We own the building at 127 Main Street.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and city councilors. Thank you for having this work session tonight. Bill did an exceptional job as always. I won't waste your time repeating anything. I did want to let you know something that came up today. I applied for a $10,000 community grant through Discover Kalispell. They have some community grant residual funds available for this fiscal year, and we thought what better way than to have our tourists contribute a little bit to our downtown improvements. And so we'll hope to receive that grant, and we will know in pretty short order. But that's a way that bed tax can impact for local community efforts. So we're going to move forward on that, and that can certainly be helpful when it comes to budget. So thank you.
And your name for the record.
It's been a long day. Lorraine Clarno with the Chamber. Thank you.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Danelle Smith, and I live at 302 2nd Avenue West, and my husband and I own Smith's Carpet Center. And I appreciate these guys. I have met with Mr. Nardi, and I have talked to him about the plan that they're coming forward. I just ask that you guys broaden your scope with the parking, because we are directly across the street from Black Rifle Coffee, and we have no parking. I've got older customers that are carrying 15 by 15 carpet boards in and out of the store. They're not there very often, maybe 15, 20 minutes, but there is no parking. And I've been told by the customers that they have gone circling around the block, have found no parking whatsoever, and they have gone elsewhere. So it is a detriment to our business right now because we have absolutely no parking. I go to the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we close at 5 o'clock, and it's nonstop parking all day long on both sides. So I request that we broaden the scope to at least 2nd Avenue West to look at the parking issues. We do have it. We used to have 2-hour parking there. We no longer have 2-hour parking. I would request that we get something in place so the employees for Black Rifle Coffee and Glacier Memorial move their vehicles throughout the day, because otherwise they sit there for 8-10-hour shifts. So that's just my thought and my request. Thank you very much for your time. Any
Thank you.
questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, seeing no further public comment, so we'll move into discussion. I want to start off by just disclosing that I did attend a downtown Kalispell Forward meeting some months ago where this proposal was under discussion. And then a few weeks ago, I met with Mr. Mosley, and he kind of gave me a general overview of the proposal as well. So open up for discussion. Mr. Dowd.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a couple counter proposals that may surprise the rest of the council, actually, but I can explain them out. So manual parking enforcement is a huge waste of city resources, and it's not very efficient at all. My proposal would be to remove all free for a time parking, 2-hour parking, 30-minute parking, 20-minute parking, just remove it all. Place metered parking on Main Street from Center Street to the couplet, and then remove all permitted parking from city lots between First and First and move them out farther, and then make those paid parking lots. I think that would really help with our perception problem. People can still get free parking. They just can't get it right on Main Street. It'll be on the side streets. And there's a pretty decent liberty argument for this. Taxes are bad, but fees are fine. You're paying for something you are specifically using yourself. You're not paying for anybody else. So that's kind of where I'm coming from this, and we've had some discussions about it individually, throughout the past few weeks, years, whatever. This comes up so much, and I'm also not opposed to the license plate reader, which is probably a big surprise to people. But the Montana Constitution has a very strong privacy protection on government activities. And I would write council policy, or I would support council policy that would make the license plate reader data only available for parking enforcement, period. So those are my suggestions. We could actually get this implemented pretty quickly. There is a lot of systems out there that are new, that are subscription-based, and they will assist in placing the meters in quickly because they get a cut, right? So we could do this in a pretty short order. I know it's a big change from what we have right now, but what we have right now is really confusing. You're also going to be removing a whole bunch of signs from downtown with a 2-hour parking, 30-minute parking, 20-minute parking, whatever, and it's all going to be like metered parking from Main Street. So that's my proposal.
So just to clarify, you have Main Street as kind of meter parking, but like on First Avenue, East and West, your proposal is to have just free open parking, or the 2-hour parking, 90-minute parking? What's your proposal for the?
I would like to remove all the timed parking. And, you know, the perception that we get, in my experience, from talking to people and from listening to downtown agencies and things like that, is when people are complaining about the parking, they're complaining that they can't park basically right outside the business that they want to go into, right? And taking that perception away from Main Street where there's spaces available, or maybe they're all full, maybe people are happy to park and pay for the parking. But I think this would really help the perception problem of Main Street itself. It also helps with our future plan for what we're trying to do downtown. And we don't have to adjust any of these hourly parking, like 2-hour parking, whatever, in the future, if we go to a system like that.
So again, the
Yes,
First
free-
Avenue,
free-
East and
free
West would be
parking.
open, free. Okay.
Exactly,
Got it.
except for the city lots between First and First and Main Street itself.
May I ask a follow-up question to your?
Sure.
So I'm just trying to track, so what would you do, for example, with the furniture, carpet, store? Would there be a space for 15-minute drop-off, pickup, that kind of thing? How do you solve that problem?
Those can all be tackled with specific decisions made on specific areas. So I do understand the area around Black Rifle Coffee, hugely utilized for parking. That might be an area where we reserve a space or two for people that are dropping stuff off. And I'm fine with that. I mean, that's a business need, and we definitely want to encourage more business downtown. So I don't have any problem with that, but I think those should be, I know this is getting away from everything that we're doing right now, which everything's going to automated, everything's going to by rule. This would be more of a council decision where you could say, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. I know that area very well. There's no parking there because there's so many people that frequent Black Rifle Coffee. And I don't think a 2-hour permit there or 2-hour parking there is going to help greatly, because a lot of those people are there for maybe an hour, and then then they leave, somebody else is immediately in that parking spot, right? So I don't know if the 2-hour parking there would help greatly, but a 15-minute loading zone would really probably assist with what the problem that she was talking about.
So then one more question to follow up.
Yes.
On just what you've said. So I'm thinking of the gentleman who spoke about speeding, and license plate recognition was one of the things he requested, but you wouldn't want it for speeding? Would there be any
You would have to
flexibility there?
notify everybody in the city of Kalispell that the government is doing this, and they would have a chance to respond by Montana Constitution. Now, Governor Gianforte and the Attorney General are stepping all over this all the time. They are killing the privacy act that's in the Montana Constitution, but it's very clear. It's only a couple sentences long. It basically says if we're going to do any kind of monitoring at all, anything, like even these, even the cameras, the 4G cameras that control the intersections, if they're used for anything else, they would have to disclose that to all Montanans to be able to do that. And people would have a chance to put in public comment and kind of make the government prove that they need to do this, right? So anyway, trying to stay out of that whole ball of wax, but for parking enforcement, for intersection like lights, you can do this. As long as you're not sharing that information to other agencies for other purposes and things like that, then you're not violating people's privacy. But as soon as you have this where even if one person can look at a camera and it has an inch of private property on it, you're basically breaking Montana Constitution by utilizing that. So I'm trying to stay out of that whole sticky wicket.
Thank you, Your Honor. I like a lot of what you're saying, Sid. I think some things you got going there. The one that I do get concerned about is, well, by Black Rifle Coffee, because of those business needs, we'll do this there. What happens at all the other places? That's basically where we ended up getting to this point, is we just have all these problems everywhere. So I'm kind of leaning back towards, these guys have done a lot of work in putting this in, and from what I'm seeing here, I kind of like with what you guys are suggesting with this. And I do agree that we probably need to take this out to second streets on at least one side, if not both sides, to really bring in that core of Kalispell. So I kind of lean back towards, I like the path of letting this go, try it, and if that doesn't work, there's always Plan B, right?
Yeah,
So,
sure. And I'm trying to get us out of the business of monitoring spots using our law enforcement, right? Even if it's a parking person, it's a huge, it's huge overhead. Plus, they can't do it in time, right? We can't enforce the 2-hour parking because it takes 4 hours to get around, and then they have to go around again, right? So unless we want to I'm definitely not suggesting any more FTEs for that purpose. I think a lot of this can be automated, but I'm really concerned that it's automated only for parking and not for other aspects.
sure.
Mr. Walker.
Yeah. So another big rabbit hole, right? Parking. After this came up, started doing the research and the reading. It's gratifying to hear the support so far for paid parking, because yeah, what I've learned is, much like there's no such thing as a free lunch, there's no such thing as free parking, right? Like, we're all paying for that parking one way or another. It's using of real estate that could be better used for housing or for more business, for any number of things besides an empty spot for a car for 95% of its life. And so we need to value our parking more. $30 a month for a parking permit is laughable. It's so low. I've never heard of a permit being that low. Why even bother with a permit? Almost, like, it's so low for me. So I support paid parking in general. That said, I tend to agree with the downtown Kalispell Forward. I don't think we're quite there yet, but we're close. We're very close to needing some of this stuff. And I think there's a lot of opportunity here that we can plan out a good parking strategy from the ground up instead of piecemealing one here or there and getting parts of it right and parts of it wrong and ripping things out and screwing it up. I think there's some really good cities that they highlighted in their case studies. Sandpoint, Idaho in particular, I thought had some great ideas, came right out of a lot of my research, honestly, with the dynamic pricing, where you monitor in real time using things like parking sensors embedded in the pavements. Once we get to the point where we're redoing roads and sidewalks, we can embed sensors, so then you know real time if a spot's occupied or not, and you can adjust the pricing in real time. If it's busy day on a holiday and all the spots are full, then the price goes up until you're about 85% full. 1 or 2 spots a block. So it's always full, but there's somebody always leaving, so you always have turnover. And then when the demand goes down, the prices come down, so you can keep it at about 85% full. You don't want to outprice people out when the demand drops. But you allow that real-time pricing, and then the council doesn't have to get involved on a site-by-site basis. If the demand goes up over here in this corner, it can automatically raise prices at, for example, a Black Rifle coffee, and then it can come down again after those hours go down. And so keeping some spots open and keeping employees off those spots all day, because it would be too expensive. I don't know that we can do all that right now, all across downtown. It's a big lift. It's a big ask. There's a lot of pieces. I think we definitely need to start someplace. I think the signage is a great start on just at least informing people how this is going to work, getting people used to where to look for signage and information, so that when we do start adding meters or smart meters so that you can pay by the hour or by the day, there's more information on where to find that, where to go for those. People will know where to look. We won't have to have new outreach programs that'll already be in place. We can start with other cities, start with the same apps for permitting, for example, before we put in meters. People get used to that app. We don't have to change again. We can then just add meters to the app when we're ready to throw in smart meters. Smart meters would allow us to do it block by block, right? As the need grows, we could just meter this block or this block. We wouldn't have to do the whole downtown at once and pay for it all at once. So there's a lot of options, right? There's a lot of things we can do. All that money, I think, also should stay in wherever it's generated, right? All that parking revenue should stay in downtown to be used to help downtown.
Yeah, I forgot that part.
Yeah.
That's a
official master plan to lay out all this stuff, because parking is not free at all, and we should recoup the money that we're spending on all this free parking. We shouldn't be taxing ourselves. And it's a good way to get money from a lot of our visitors and people who don't live in the city, who come down to town, and convenience parking. Because that's really what we're paying for, or we will be paying for in these busy spots, like you said, is the convenience of parking close, right? We're never gonna meter every spot in town. Like, it's never gonna be like that. So it's always just gonna be a little farther away, a little less convenient. And people are willing to pay for that. So we shouldn't be afraid to charge for it.
And another thing to consider, another thing to consider is, I've looked into this on other cities around the US. You go from 30,000 to 50,000 in a fast growing area really quickly, right? So pretty soon paid parking's just gonna be a reality here in Kalispell. So at least implementing this in small stages will get people accustomed to that idea eventually. I mean, small town, I'm born and raised in Montana. Paid parking sounds ridiculous to me, right? It riles my feathers. I'm like, why am I paying for a street I paid for, right? Oh, I might paying to park here. But the reality is that you are paying for that convenience, and if you don't want to pay, you have alternatives.
Mr. Leffridge.
I'm not opposed to looking at the long-term strategy, especially as it comes to paid parking downtown. But right now, we need to have a short-term strategy. We need something in place to start for the summer. And we also want to incentivize people to come downtown. It's free to park at Walmart. It's free to park at Costco. We don't have a parking problem downtown. The people that do park downtown every day are employees. And if you're a retail employee and you're having to pay for parking every single day, it's essentially a toll on your wage. Helena has $1 an hour parking everywhere. If you work downtown, your salary is $1 an hour less for every hour you work, simply because you're working there instead of out at Walmart. So full disclosure, before I joined the council, I was part of the Downtown Forward Coalition. I think it's important under ethical rules, if we take a meeting with an outside organization, we disclose it and the substance of it. Substance of it was this report. So that said, I hate to start talking about this by how I have consistently skirted city ordinances for the last 10 years. But I think it is indicative of what actually happens with employees downtown. Human behavior typically takes the path of least resistance. So when I go to work, the easiest place to park is right outside my back door on 4th Street, right? I set an alarm for 2 hours. When the 2 hours is up, I move one spot forward and hide the chalk, right? If I get a ticket because I was in a meeting and Dave was too fast, I just left it there, and I had a $10 parking toll for the entirety of the day. Right? There is no disincentive for me to do anything else but that if it was the most convenient place to park. Right? So because there's no disincentive, what I really like about this is that we're offering a greater disincentive to do just that, right? It's now not just $10, but it can stack over and over again. If you move a little forward, the new license plate reading software will keep that from happening. So, this can continue to stack. So now there's a disincentive to do that. You get away from being able to break the rules and then being able to provide a reasonable alternative to people like me, which is get a permit at the Mountain Valley lot. It's no longer a 2-year-long wait list for that lot, but now I can park at the Mountain Valley lot, the O'Neill lot, the Methodist lot, the Wells Fargo lot, any of these other places that are perennially underutilized. I just have to walk a block, right? Or walk 2 blocks. And then I know that I can have either, not that expensive parking. My employer would probably pay for it. But it changes the behavior. And then what that does is it takes the employees from parking in front of the businesses and gives that perception of availability, along with the Valley Bank lot, the perception of availability to customers. One of the things that I think is really cool inside of the report is that a space in front of a business can have $100 to $300 worth of value to that business on a daily basis, right? If somebody can park right in front of that business, that improves it. So if we disincentivize employees from doing that, create a better perception of availability for customers downtown, my hope is that these businesses continue and start to thrive even more. Then we have the problem of actually there being no parking, and then being able to move into a system in which we're able to charge people because it's so exciting to be downtown. But that's not really the issue that we have right now.
Mr. Water.
I too have met with the Downtown Association, and but that's because I really appreciate the work, and thank you, Bill, for all the work that you've done on this. Part of it is I really do believe we need to have a vibrant downtown, and parking is one of those issues that's been a stumbling block that's out there. What I appreciate also is just some push to do something. So I really appreciate what the plan is recommending of, one, having the readers and doing enforcement on the streets, and then having free lots. I think that's definitely a short-term achievable thing that we could do. I think, Mr. Dowd, you really framed it really nicely. The lots between First West and First East should all be free. And that would be a simple way that we could open that up so that that's a really easy thing for, again, employees, people to understand where that is. Also, if we could work on those partnerships with the banks to open up their spaces in the evening, I think that also would just be another solution that would be out there. I do think that we are in a world that we will need to have meters sooner than later. I would love to have that problem because, again, I think we're leaving money on the table. Not only does that money, should it be reinvested, I believe that that's actually a way that we can say and indicate how we would reinvest if we had the $20 million problem of a parking lot. You'd be able to utilize that those fees into part of that match of how you're building up into that 20 million or that need for a parking structure. Again, what I like about this is just taking some movement from where we've been sort of static, and it is a hodgepodge parking system that we have right now. It would be nice to have some universal statements. If it's a parking lot on Main Street, it's free to the public. There's a $15 parking if you overextend, I'd say, the 2 hours on Main Street. But in general, I like where it's going. I do think that, again, appreciated the highlights. I think Sandpoint, Idaho is a really good example of where we are. My understanding of their dynamic parking, though, which is something I think we also might want to consider, is it's more seasonal. Free in February, and more when there's the tourists. That's where you have that increase. And to me, I think that that also makes sense, and again, could be something which is a huge buy-in for the local community who's able to see that, because it's the tourists who I believe is where we're leaving money on the table. Because I do think that when they go to Helena, they go to Missoula, everybody's paying parking in those cities, and we're need to have something that's similar from that out-of-town perspective. So that's sort of where I am. I'm definitely supportive of moving forward and also doing something that has a little bit of flexibility of, like you say, getting us into a larger term parking plan. Here's year one, not the end-all solution, but get ourselves into that where we're eventually saying, what are those trigger points when we would need a garage?
Even smart meters, you don't need them. It's a barcode now on the parking sign. Clicked on app, paid. You don't need a meter, you don't need anything. And this technology will allow the council, if you take the first steps, get a year of data, see where we're at, and it can go to market-based parking. You could do a lot of things very easily through, once you have that program in place and we have the data and we could see where it's at. So in that sense, time is on our side, because even the smart meters and stuff, they did cost a lot of money. It's a big investment for cities, and they typically were kind of like a fee-based system, and the companies would take a cut of that, but you don't really need that anymore. It's simple barcode on a parking sign and you can do it, so.
Thank you, Your Honor. There is one little aspect, and I think that Ms. Smith pointed it out, and I didn't catch it right away. So in full disclosure, I lived on Main Street for a little over a year, right above, now I forget the name of the business. Right across the street from the Valley Bank lot, though. There's actually a number of apartments down Main Street that I've learned over the years. So I think as we're talking about this, both extending out to Second Ave West, but is also those that live downtown. And I think quite a few of them actually work and live downtown. So I think that might be something we need to take into account as we do that.
I'd love to see those apartments and parking spaces decoupled, so that if they rent is separate from parking, right? So that they pay for a parking space separately. If they don't want to pay for a parking, they don't have to. It's a way to help with housing costs. If we work downtown, you don't have a car, you don't need a car, you don't want to have to pay for parking, you shouldn't have to pay for it. But we should charge those that want to do it.
I didn't also mention that I don't have any problem with the proposal that was brought forward. I just am more future thinking. I think we're gonna have to go to metered downtown eventually. It'll also help with the perception of spaces in front of businesses being open. And if I'm an employee and I have to run out there every hour or whatever and do the thing, or maybe you can just extend it on your phone or whatever. You know, there's a big difference between paying $10 fine and the fees adding up to like $20 over a day or something like that.
Yeah, I guess I'll add my thoughts on this. I think there's a lot of agreement I'm hearing, especially with the idea of kind of starting here and then moving more towards kind of a paid option in the future. That's kind of where I am as well. I see the problem that we've had from what I've heard in a couple ways. One, we have employees who are parking on the street and moving or not moving because the fines, even if they do get caught, are so low that it's less than what you would pay for a day of parking in just about any other city. So that part of it, I think, is a problem with fines, and I think I appreciate the stacking, but you could also just go with like a $50 fine and just it's a $50 fine, and it's enough even on the first violation that you don't want. My problem with $15 first violation is that nobody's going to care about the first violation because they'll pay $15 because that's less than day of parking just about anywhere else in any other city. And the same thing with the parking. So we have stories where people have a permit, but they are parking on the street. We've heard that tonight because the price of the permit, as we heard, $1 a day is so cheap, they can pay that and pay a fine for not moving the car on Main Street and still be paying almost less or at least as much as you would pay for a day of parking in any other city. So I think pricing is a big problem here. And ultimately, I'm with Mr. Walker and a number of other folks who've said we need to get to a point where people are paying for their privilege of parking because that has value. And we heard discussions about the value to the businesses of that parking space. Well, there's that much value, then businesses should have no problem paying more than $1 a day for their employees to park off of Main Street, right? Yes, it's for people shopping, they don't have to pay at Walmart or whatnot. But Walmart and those stores are always going to be more convenient. There's always going to be a reason for convenience sake to go there than opposed to our downtown. They're going to want to come to our downtown because we give them something else. And in terms of being a destination. And so paid parking is just going to be one of those things that a desirable destination will overcome. And so I'm not concerned about that. And just the fact that downtown land is valuable. And I think it sends the wrong message over the long term. Again, the short term, I'm okay with this to collect the data, but over the long term, to send the message that our downtown city lots can be given away for free for people to store their cars is saying the wrong message. Ultimately, I would like to see these lots developed, and I hope, I think we'll be discussing that later this year. We already have a plan to develop the Valley Bank lot. So we'll see if that moves forward. But I would like to see many of our lots redeveloped, and eventually we will not have the option of these lots to provide parking because we'll have a bigger and better use of them, housing, businesses, more tax revenue, and so on, that provides much greater benefit to the community than the storage of cars, especially when it sits half empty most of the time. Short term, I support the idea with this, with the condition, with the possible deviation that we do a higher fine for the first time violations or for any of the violations, and in order to collect that data through the new technology. So then, and I'm not talking 5 years, I'm talking a year to 2 years. Then we start looking at more paid parking options and redevelopment of some of these lots and so on for the future. So from the discussion I heard, the questions that seemed open is what to do with First Avenue East and West, whether or not we're doing 90 minutes, as I believe the proposal is, or if we're just doing away with timing and offering that free. My concern with that is that then you just shift, all of a sudden you will have a parking problem on First Avenues East and West because now that's the easiest parking. And now we appear to be giving preferential treatment to Main Street over the businesses on First Avenue East and West. I think we heard from Second Avenue West, the carpet place, that's what they experienced, right, when we took away two-hour parking there. So my concern is doing free parking First Avenue West, doing away with the time parking. We're just going to shift that burden, and we're going to have complaints from those businesses, and then all of a sudden we created a problem there that didn't exist currently. So I'd actually prefer the proposal of keeping the 90-minute time parking on First Avenue East and West. Mr. Leffridge.
just hearing that, I mean, I think there's three things that we could possibly tweak here. The first one is upping the first fine from $15 to $20 or $25, just a little more to create that disincentive, but not so punitive that somebody who's getting a 3-hour haircut, has to pay $50 for it, right? Somebody may be willing to violate that, but so we can amend that a little bit. As of right now, the proposal is free for the permit parking. It's $30 a month now. I assume, I don't know what the actual revenue is on a monthly basis for it. We could have some dollar figure be associated with those permits. I think the most important thing is being able to ensure that it's unlimited, right? And that it's not dedicated to a certain lot. You have a permit to park at any downtown lot. So if the Mountain Valley lot's full, you can go to the O'Neill lot, right? You can just shop around.
Can I just, the problem with combining the paid and the unlimited, so if you pay for your employee to have a permit, but then it's unlimited and they go and it's full, then are they coming to us looking for a reimbursement of their permit cost because they didn't get a space for that day?
Maybe. I don't know.
That becomes an administrative problem.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, right now, what we have is we have sold out lots that are underutilized. So if it's free and then nobody can ever get a parking spot, maybe that's a new solution we need to fix. But if we are concerned about that loss of revenue, maybe we lower it down to $10 a month. And then if you don't get a parking spot one day and you have to walk an extra block, maybe it's not so painful. I don't know the answer to that. I'm also in favor of doing the 90 minutes on 2nd Avenue West. I kind of look at the map and look at the availability of those city lots, the Skyline, the Keno, the Center Court lot. There's actually a ton of parking on 2nd Avenue West. And clearly it's an issue for business owners on 2nd Avenue West, being able to better utilize that existing infrastructure on 2nd Avenue West for employees to be able to free it up for customers. It's not part of the proposal, but I'm in favor of that as well.
Mr. Down.
So the thing I'm trying to avoid here, and this is just a personal peeve with me, is I used to frequent Coulter Coffee all the time. Coulter Coffee has, I don't know, like 5 spots that's theirs, and the rest of that is a city parking lot with permit parking that is completely empty all day long from 8 to 5 when it's supposed to be in use. And it ticked me off every single time I pulled in that parking lot, looked for a Coulter spot. I couldn't find one. I had to go somewhere else because it was just not being used at all, right? So that's why I was trying to get the permit parking away from First and First so that people could park in those spots. First come, first serve, public parking makes a lot more sense to me than permit parking that nobody uses at all. I mean, maybe one car in that parking lot. I think you could probably look at this. There's a lot more in there in this picture than there usually is actually, but it's still 50% open.
Yeah, and I think, two directions with those lots. I mean, you have it free and unlimited, then nobody's upset if there's not enough space. And we can use that time to see what this effect has. Do we all of a sudden have full lots that people aren't able to access? But part of the problem we have right now is people are buying up the permits, but they're so cheap that they don't feel the need to use them. And so if you have permits, then you need to price them so that people feel like they're wasting money if they're not using it, right? But I think having paid permit but then unlimited, I don't think that would work. I think that would create problems. So I'm willing to go with the free, unlimited for now, with the idea that at some point we either redevelop the lot or shift to a limited permit but priced appropriately. So on the First Avenues East and West and 2nd Avenue West, we're okay with doing the timed 90-minute?
Can I jump in there? So that was just because that was a recommendation, but there also wasn't opposition from the Parking Advisory Board wanted to leave it at 2 hours rather than an hour and a half. 2 hours is a bit longer. It's also just one less thing we're changing. So our recommendation, at least to the Parking Advisory Board as well, was the 90 minutes is just leave it, just do 2 hours and then expand the 2 hours wherever the council wants to do that. And certainly there's a couple of 30-minute locations and such, but rather than confusing people having 90-minute to whatever it may be, just do.
That's when the largest surge happens, and it would be great to be able to have something that we were able to roll out. I mean, that was sort of the timelines that was put into the proposal. Have something that we could capture and have data sometime sooner than later. So that's part of the reason I'd support like the 2 hour, keeping 2 hours. It's just one less thing we're changing so that we could implement something on a
I would agree that going from 2 hours to 90 minutes and then to paid parking is going to be a shock, or, too fast to a lot of people. So keeping the 2 hours is fine. I would love to see how fast we could implement the LPR system, not use it, but get data from it. That is going to inform us a lot more on where the heavy parking is happening all the time, what should be metered in the future, that kind of thing. I don't know how long it would take to get a pilot program rolling with that, but I think that it would inform us as far as the parking downtown. We're still going to need it for the mess that we have over by the high school anyway, right? With that parking system, we're still going to have to monitor that. So the faster we can get something in and start getting data from it, I'm an engineer, the happier I'll feel looking at data, right?
That would be a question for KPD. How quickly can that LPR software be installed and start to be utilized? The second question is, can we also utilize it for permit parking? Can we put in all of the folks that have permits, like in the city lots, and as you drive through the lots, you can tell who has a permit and who doesn't?
We can. It can be used for both. As far as implementation, part of that is funding. How quickly can we have the money to make the purchase? For one, once we have the funding, it's not an extensive wait for them to come up here. I would say within a couple, weeks or a month to get them up there. And it's just an install of the hardware on the vehicles, which we have access to already. We can utilize those. It's not new staff. It's not new FTE, so that's available. As far as the lots themselves go, essentially what that would look like is employees would register their cars in the permit system. LPR would drive through and it would catch any vehicle that's not registered. Now, that doesn't prevent employees from parking on the street because they already have permits, right? That's where fines come in. There has to be a reason that they don't want to get a ticket on the street. Mm-hmm. So the two have to be kind of working together to make any sense. And I'm not quite sure I understand about getting the LPR and not utilizing it. What would be just so I can wrap my mind around that? Why would we do that?
We didn't want to implement the paid parking right away. So I was talking in the paid parking, parking system with the barcode or the QR code or whatever. That's a whole separate issue, right?
Understand.
So I was confusing the two a little bit, but for the LPR system, you're right. I mean, as soon as we get it, you can start using it for all the permitted parking immediately. And then we'll find out whether we really need it or not, right?
Can I do a brief summary what I think I'm hearing? So LPR, license plate readers, so it's in the budget. Certainly can start to move it because there's, as I had mentioned, going to need to do a request for proposals process and things. So we can get that started to get ahead of it. Likely won't be fully up and running early in the summer, but hopefully by midsummer we'll be full going. That doesn't mean we do still have enforcement in the meantime. What we look at doing is LPR, increase fines. The recommendation from the Parking Advisory Board was $20. So higher than actually the recommendation coming out of the parking strategy. Currently, it's 10?
15, I believe. It's currently 10.
Yes.
I believe it was 15 and then
Yeah. Yes.
I'd like 25, if that's the compromise from 50. I'd like to see 25.
I'd support 25.
25.
I'm fine.
So, well, second question then, increased, so would you rather do 25 or 20 with an increase based off a second, third, fourth ticket?
Oh, so you start at
Stacking.
20, then
You
it's
start at 20, your second one's 30 or 40, so it's less punitive for
Is
that
that the
first
second one
person.
in the same day? Is that what you're saying?
How was that? being
So
handled?
some cities, instead of having higher first offense citations, what they do is make sure the people that aren't changing behavior have higher tickets within a set time frame. So we could do it within 6 months or a calendar year, where their first citation is $20, but if they do it again, it's 30. If they do it a third time, it's 50, and subsequent. And it resets whatever certain time period you all may choose as the policymakers. But that's pretty common in Montana, kind of a
So-
gradual.
But it's not
not-
necessarily the same day. So if somebody gets a ticket, they don't know they have a ticket, they haven't been back to their car yet, but a few hours have passed, our officers did another pass by, they see they're still there, it's been another 2 hours. Do they get another ticket, but this time it's higher?
I would say yes, you can do either. I don't know what is appropriate, but both have been done where you can ticket multiple in a day. The LPR catches a violation, they get a citation that resets the 2 hours. LPR catches it again, they get another citation. And maybe in that scenario, it's just the $20 or $25 every time. It doesn't change. Other places have scenarios where just throughout the year, it escalates. It's kind of an escalation of your, similar to a criminal code or speeding or careless driving. They start to carry more if you're not adjusting.
And we can set it we could do like 6 months rather than a year. And
Yes.
So does that mean if I'm clean for 6 months, I go back to the $20 ticket?
It's a deferred parking violation.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I would like, I guess,
We could come up with a tier, because it is, you're trying not to be punitive to that first time, but, because right now it is trying to change behavior, so you could have it, I guess.
Ultimately, we're trying to change behavior. Ultimately, we're trying to change behavior, not create punitive damages, right? I'm sure there's good data out
Yes,
there.
and we'll look at what other cities are doing in that regard and.
Gotta incentivize it, right?
Yeah.
So that would be block face restrictions was the other option, the rocking and rolling. Other cities regulate that, and that is probably one of the bigger problems. Even now, if you were to move from this block to that block, you're not gonna get a ticket. So the block face consideration, is that something council would feel appropriate to consider as well?
so we
Now,
would set that at
implemented where?
one block?
Implemented where? Just on Main Street?
I mean, pretty
on
much where we
Second
have
to Second?
2 hour restricted parking now.
Okay.
That's where it would be.
Zone.
So you couldn't go anywhere in downtown 2 hour restricted parking.
Well, that would be, that's what we'll have.
Question is, what the distance do we want?
the distance
Is
would be.
it one block? Like if they move one block, they're out free? Or do you have to move 2 blocks to get to start new? Like what's the distance that is appropriate?
So is there data on that? What would it say?
Different cities do different kinds of solutions, but you don't want to make it just a block because then
Yeah.
you do the rock and roll. You don't want to make it so you have to be up north into the south into downtown, so you get elderly and people like that who can't walk very far, so there's staff should come up with a proposal. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
But in
We'll
different
work.
cities do different distances.
Other municipalities in the state are doing it as well, so we'll look at that and come up with a proposal, and we could have that discussion. One thing is, right now, the permits are set up for each lot. It sounded like they're, to kind of hedge that, it could be just you have a permit and you can park in any lot. Does Karen see any issues with that potentially?
With what part?
So you just have a permit, and if you have a permit, you can park in any of the lots. So you don't necessarily get a permit for a lot.
Yeah, I think we've discussed it. It's just one of those things where these are the decisions that we get to collect data on how
Yes.
exactly they work.
Right.
In general, right now, we have not all permits sold. I think it would probably be the same scenario if we sell permits. There's either a lot of people in violation that are parking in lots they shouldn't be, or there should be a space in one of the lots available for them.
So they will always have the option. Like I said, at this point in time, we don't foresee there being an issue where one of these lots, that there won't be a parking spot, and then they'll be coming back and asking us. If we get to that point, we'll be coming back to council. But at this point, the data shows that there 100% of the time will be a spot in one of those lots. And it'll likely just be a first come basis, essentially is the way it would operate.
But we're doing unlimited, so it's not first come, first serve. It's anybody who comes
Yeah,
gets
well,
a permit.
At this point, we don't even, the data's not there to even have the 360 or whatever.
I would ask, how would we track unlimited permits for
The
employees?
permits would register, so you would have the data who has a permit.
Okay, but they
But
just
we're
do
just
as
not
many as they
limiting
want.
how many we give out.
Okay.
The question I have on, so the cost, right now, the payment of the permits is what's paying for the maintenance of the lots. What are we, if we no longer have that revenue, where's that?
Well, we're not
come from?
proposing removing that revenue. I know that was talked a bit, and the parking advisory board talked about that and didn't want to except for, which was my next point, the Valley Bank lot, potentially. Which is on Main Street, which is the most visible, which then is another one of those that you could see right on Main Street, and that would be open to the public.
So doing Valley lot free, unlimited,
2-hour parking.
2-hour parking.
2-hour parking.
Yeah.
The rest, permit, payment, unlimited. The question is, if we went that route, the cost, again, I would suggest it be higher than what it is now, so that there's some incentive to use it if you get the permit. Because otherwise, you get these businesses, they get the permits for their Whitefish employee who comes down for a meeting once a month just to make sure they have a permit, but then that permit's out there, giving a distorted view as to how much parking we actually need. We need that parking lot one time during the month.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. So how many of these parking lots, how many permits are there? Is there a certain percentage of the parking lot that's permitted, or is the whole thing permitted all the time? If you just wanted to go park in a parking lot and you don't have a permit, is there spaces that are first come, first serve? How does it work right now?
They're all permitted right now.
Eagles lot is half 2-hour, half permit parking.
Okay. And so, and that's an example, and the other ones are kind of like that, where they have some 2-hour and some, no, just the Eagles lot?
Just the Eagles lot.
Okay, yeah, we need to get rid of the permits, like, totally, completely. Go to paid parking in the parking lots, they pay for themselves. Then you don't have to worry about who's got a permit, who doesn't have a permit.
We have folks like Coulter or Grand Hotel who rely on being able to have permits for their guests to park at, that would be really upset if you wiped out the permit entirely.
Yeah, you're replacing the permit system with a paid parking system. I mean, it's, I don't know. Yeah, that's just my idea. I mean, the permits are a headache. And they're not being used, which is the biggest headache of all.
Yeah, as part of this plan, the idea is you have a choice of getting fined on Main Street or going and parking on one of these lots. But if you have to pay for the lot, then you just have to make sure that the fine, you're more likely to be saving money for paying for the lot than you are to risk getting fined on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not talking immediate. This is all future state, right? But we need to wean ourselves off of these permit parking, over time, or make every lot have some availability all the time. So that are not permitted, right? So an entire permitted parking lot with one car in it just is ridiculous.
I agree.
From an enforcement stance, I don't know how we quickly move on anything other than leaving the permits the way they are right now. There's X amount of permits. I think it'll turn into a nightmare for unlimited permits for business owners downtown. Who all do they give those to? What's the process of how to restrict them handing out permits and just getting license plates on our registration to be able to park in those lots? I think it'll turn into a huge headache. And there's a large funding issue of how we manage and maintain the lots without any permit fee structure. Leaving it the way it is right now, we know we have adequate capacity for the permits that are out there. And this could be something we see how things change in this first year of monitoring it, and then maybe make changes to that in the future. The other things seem that we can pretty seamlessly move forward with enforcement. These questions surrounding this and unlimited and some parking is public, some is permitted, I'm not sure how we quickly implement that.
As it is, we know that a lot of permits out there that are being bought and not used. We've got 360 spots, 320 permits, so we haven't even reached that threshold yet, regardless. Likewise, I get the fee, but keeping it low is kind of middle ground between the proposal, which was free parking, even in, in the employee parking lots as well. It allows us to at least kind of track them, issue a permit, have a fee, a nominal fee for the permit without going the full free route. So it's a bit of a middle ground, except for the Valley Bank lot there. So, but it's certainly a council decision. The request was actually to do the 2-hour parking, enforce the 2-hour parking, knowing that the downtown businesses could send their employees to those surface parking lots and just park there for free and incentivize them just to go park in the city lot. I guess the question is, I hate to say it, we do need revenue to maintain the lots so people can park there. Are we gonna make that up through tickets? Because there is about 50,000 in revenue that comes through those permits that we use to maintain those lots.
Yeah, and one of these is punitive, the other one's proactive, right? So the fee is, I know I'm paying for this parking spot, I'm gonna go there, I know I have 2 hours to stay there before I have to pay more, whatever. The other one is, I thought this was a city parking lot, I parked there, and I got a ticket because I didn't have a permit, I didn't know I needed a permit, even though every space, I think, has a permit sign on it, but, I don't know, but I'm just thinking out loud here. It just, the permit systems, I understand that it pays for the parking lots, for the maintenance and stuff of those, and for the snow removal, things like that. But it seems like just too much confusion, too intricate. If they were 100% used, or maybe 80% used all the time, it'd be a different story. But they're my perception is, from driving downtown, that they're hardly ever used. I see empty parking lots all over the place, and then I hear people yelling about parking, right? I'm like, there's all these spots here, but they're all permitted, so nobody can park there anyway.
So I want to kind of engage with the chief a little bit about this, because I hear what you're saying, but I think it would be a mistake in order to do all the modifications here by increasing the fines of parking downtown without then creating an opportunity for those employees that are currently parking outside of the lots to not have them go anywhere else. That's not solving the complete issue. These things are symbiotic. So I hear you saying that we can't move away from the current permit parking system that we have, but it has to be part of the solution. So I'm trying to figure out what would be something that would kind of work in your mind. Is it selling the parking lots at 200%? Is it, what are you?
Well, as far as the monetary side, that's a budgetary question for you guys. I just simply, there is a large cost to these. If you don't want there to be a cost to a permit, that's fine. That doesn't bother me at all. The unlimited permit is the one I question of how do we give out unlimited permits for us to monitor through LPR?
So we would have to put some sort of guide rails on it. Say you're a downtown business owner, and then you have the ability to get parking permits for your current employees, something like that, instead of just, Joe Bag of Donuts signing up online.
Do we permit people or cars at this point?
Vehicles.
Vehicles? Okay.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I think in that regard, it would restrict itself. I think our heads is just going wild that we're gonna have 1,000 permits. Even now, we've got 320, so likely it's not gonna be a higher number. We're kind of unlimited now, if you think about it, but
There's still
It's pretty
questions
much
as
free as it is.
far as if a business has 5 employees and 2 employees leave, how are we unregistering those 2 employees?
Right.
But what's really going to happen is there's going to be employees that worked on Main Street 8 years ago and they still have their registration. That's just the reality of, unless there's some system that I'm not thinking of that could have a check and balance on that. Otherwise, we're kind of defeating the whole purpose of making sure everyone has parking.
Did you say, what did you say?
Annual renewal.
renewal of some kind where every permit's gotta get a re-up it, re-sign.
Yeah, so it'd be wiped out.
That's,
Can't renew it.
but it's also a cost of business. So if the cost of the ticket was up higher, we've all been talking about how Walmart, you go there and it's free parking. No, it's not. Right? It's not free parking at Walmart. Walmart paid a lot of money for that parking. So I think if we find the right amount, right, that's a cost of doing business for an owner too, right? Is providing parking, hopefully, right, and not just putting it on the employee.
so my one comment, again, thinking about the efficiency of rolling something out, I hear what the chief is saying. One of the benefits of the current system is we have the contact information for 320 people who are actually looking at parking downtown. So I do think that the current system, though maybe not ideal and where we want to go, at least is a communication tool. Because Karen was great when she told me when I got off a waiting list, when my renewal was due. It was really able to utilize that information to communicate, which was really also helpful for those 300 some primary people who are working downtown doing that. I would agree with you that as an employer downtown, I have 2 free spots. I give those to my employees. I'm just Beth and I who are out dodging, figuring out where we're going to park. I would probably be willing to pay for a permit to give my employees the free parking. Or could vice versa. Pay for a parking permit for my employee, but having some terms on that. It's, if that's my biggest issue, what it's happening right now is employees are going out and rolling. That's where we're trying to put some enforcement on the parking on Main Street, which is the limited commodity.
No, I agree with that, and I think one of the biggest tools that we could is the license plate reader.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The license plate reader, right? Really, we're trying to work ourselves through a circle on this, but in the end, we're missing our biggest tool in that license plate reader. We're gonna have a lot of information within the first couple months. And we're probably gonna have new information all throughout the year as the seasons change, right? So I do think that is a good place for us to start. It's not gonna be a perfect solution for us, but I think it's a start for us to start getting that information.
Yeah, and I don't think that the current system we have for permit parking, I understand that keeping it the same would be easier for enforcement, right? It just doesn't solve the problem of the vastly underutilized lots. That's what I'm trying. That's the solution. What I'm trying to solve here. Now, it doesn't have to be immediate, but we should be moving toward a system where people are actually parking in the parking lots. That's going to alleviate spots on the street. It'll have all kinds of benefits, but I don't have a good plan for how we switch from these two systems, other than just pulling off the Band-Aid and said, okay, paid parking now, right? I would love to hear some options going forward, but well, I'm not trying to make this too difficult to enforce this summer for the chief and his people. So keeping it the same right now is okay, but we need to be moving toward a system where the parking lots are actually being used.
The goal is that the enforcement will do that
And maybe it will. That'd be great.
because they're parking on the street rather than the lot. So the idea is that the enforcement and the fines will hopefully change the habits and force that person to use their permit and park in the lot, which the discussion I'm hearing too is that you don't necessarily have a permit for a lot in particular, but you have a permit you just have a downtown permit and you can park in any of the lots, which then kind of allows a flexibility where they can park kind of wherever they want in one of those lots.
Just so, I'm trying to move toward a system eventually where you can be self-reliant. Say, I made a plan, I paid for that parking spot, I'm in that parking spot. Right now, you're making it like gambling. I might get away with it, or they might catch me, and I think the license plate reader is going to help a lot as far as parking on Main Street, the people that are doing the rock and rolling, whatever you want to call it. Maybe we just see how that pans out, how if that actually pushes people to actually park in their permitted parking.
I think for ease of implementation, if we do the fine for overstaying a parking spot at $25, and then we keep the permit parking for existing lots, but have it open to any lot they can park in with the permit, put the permit at $5 a day rather than $1 a day. So there's a little more incentive to use it, except for the Valley Bank lot. Let that be open and free. Do the monitoring and see what the data shows. That'd be the simplest to.
Yeah, keep the permits at the number we have right now.
No, it'd be unlimited, because I think, as we heard, it'd only be open to the downtown businesses. It'd renew once a year, so that, the old ones would come off after a year if they no longer working downtown. The businesses have to re-up every year. Here's my employees, this is their license plates, I'm paying $5 a day, for the permit for this, these 3 employees. It's enough money that they're hopefully not going to just waste a permit on.
So that would be $150 a month. Right now, they're $30 a month. Just the perspective. The proposal was to go free. So I just want, right now it's at 30, and I'm not disagreeing at all. Just give some perspective with where we're at, because certainly the idea is we're also trying to provide some relief to some of these, not the glacier banks and the banks who have actually a majority of the permits, but the small business owner who is struggling to pay their taxes, just try not to add another cost for their employees.
Do you provide like 1 permit per 5 employees free? Or something like that? A small number of free permits per business, and then extras they could buy as needed? At a higher price?
And one other thing that I wanted to make sure.
Incremental raise over years instead of having a huge shock, like 500% in the first year, right? That's a lot to choke down.
$1 to $5. See, 500% sounds so big. $4 a day. Yes, you're not wrong.
I have one question for clarification, and is this considering losing 44 spaces for Valley Bank open to the public? Because even currently, right now, we have 330 permits sold out of 300. 45. We have 314 sold out of 329. We'll lose 44 to Valley Bank. So we're already oversold from spaces by quite a bit as we sit. So that's really where my concern of just unlimited thing comes in, is we're already oversold every permit space we have
But
currently.
they're not being utilized.
But the idea of this whole process is that when you enforce
They're
with
going to.
LPR, you move employees off the street into the lots. So we
Right.
haven't even seen what that
Right.
impact is yet.
It's the unknown of
Yes.
not
Yeah,
having the
I think we
LPR,
should
which,
see that impact first, and then we could revisit.
yes.
Yeah, I guess that's where I'm is, what was the problem we were trying to solve initially? It seems like we're on another problem right now that we're trying to solve when we haven't solved the first problem that we came to solve. So I would encourage us to think, okay, we're trying to get people off the main street so people can, who are working. We figured that out with Valley Bank. Let's give this a go. And then we'll solve the next problem, which is all these other permitting process. But I think for the public's sake and just for us to move things forward, one problem at a time.
The one problem that I see with not addressing the permit parking at all in these lots is that, again, they're underutilized, and there's a 2-year wait list, right? So if you're a business and you're holding on to this valuable this commodity, essentially, it's something you don't want to get rid of, you're just holding on to. You may be a business that has 5 things, but you're not going to get rid of them because maybe you'll need them someday, right? But you're not actually utilizing it. So the problem that I see is that now we're going to make it so employees don't park on Main Street or on First Avenue West and East, right? But then where do they go? Because they can't get a permit. They don't have anywhere to go. These things seem linked to me.
So could we still, in a year's time, implement this, knowing that that's a problem, and then go to something like what Mr. Walker was discussing, that it's upped every year, and we look at the fee structure then, because we've got the license plate recognition, and then we can figure out what's the cost structure. Because to me, what I'm hearing is it's the wrong cost structure. It just doesn't cost enough, and it doesn't get renewed enough. So if we know all that, and we know we need to fix it, but if we try this first, get people off Main Street, and then knowing the next problem we have to tackle is how do we deal with this permits? And it could be that we do stop giving, I don't know how long are these permits given to for right now? How long? Because you made a commitment, I bought a permit, how long do I have it for?
Well, it depends on what you can purchase up to a year in advance.
But no more than a year, right?
No more, but even initially, if we start a program like this, we're gonna have conversations of refunds, and what does that look like?
Right, that's what I was thinking through in my head,
there's a
right?
lot
that
that'll have to
you
go
need to
into-
finish the commitments you've made.
Yeah.
And so if that's the longest, then I would say, let's finish our commitments, start this, and then at that point, I totally hear what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. They're gaming it. We know that. They've been gaming it, so we let it go on for one more year, and knowing that that's the end, and then we sit down with businesses and say, figure that piece out as well. Is that possible?
I agree with that. I like that. I gotta go pick up a kid.
Chief, and to address Councilman Leftridge, there's only certain lots that have a waiting list. If we open it all up, I think as a totality of all the lots, there's not a waiting list. And to Mayor Hunter's point, I think if the fee was a lot, there's just a number of people that are holding on to a lot of permits, like you said. So the number is not really a real number, because there's people that are sitting on a handful of permits, and that's probably just that never get used. So I don't think that there will be an issue. No promises there, but certainly as it is now, if we opened it up to the whole thing, there wouldn't be a waiting list even now. So there, hypothetically, you should be able to get a permit. If it starts to become an issue where we have businesses that aren't able to get a permit for their employees, then we'll be back before you.
Make
I
an
think that-
adjustment.
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to see something, it doesn't have to be right away, in the future. I do like that idea of figuring out a policy for events and fee structures, because that's another way to make revenue off of those pieces of property.
Yeah, and I do want, that was something that bothered me that I haven't mentioned, but the idea of providing, back to the idea of free permits to businesses, but then charging nonprofits on weekends. I have a big problem with that, just in terms of fairness there. So Either we're providing free for the nonprofits on weekends along with the businesses, or we're charging both, but not one or the other. So,
So I agree with the, looking at permits, would also just encourage staff to also consider the parking lot that's next to the depot building as being part of that space. That's, because I think that's another underutilized lot that maybe we're missing the opportunity to rent out or be able to utilize in a different way as well.
And we're still using the depot park itself, the green space for events, right? Art in a park, things like that. It's just the parking lots we're not. The city parking lots, yeah.
Parks have events in them all the time, and then we got a process set up to how to reserve them and do vending permits, but the city parking lots were not part of that system.
Okay.
well, when we did the park line, we established the back end only parking spaces. I don't ever see those utilized. Are you saying adding that into this?
I'm speaking about the parking lot, which is
On the property.
right next, onto the property, right next to the
Yeah.
building.
It gets fenced
That's,
off.
that just seems to be one that, if we're looking at opening up city parking lots, that's one that's not used. The back-end parking, I would agree, is also not utilized, but
I do know
that was
Parks
a whole
Department,
other.
Parks Department parks all their parks vehicles in that parking lot. But I don't know how many spaces they need for that, whether there's a few spaces available after that. But yeah, I would certainly, the back end parking, I say, let's pull that into the system because they're never, almost never utilized. So we have maybe sticking with the permit. I'm just trying to summarize, forgive me if I get it wrong. Sticking with our current permit system paid, but opening it up so all the lots, somebody can park in any of the lots. Going to $2 rather than $1. Something a little bit more than what we're currently doing. Is that not $5? $2? Double it? You okay with that? Okay.
We want to wait for more data on that. There's resistance to jacking it up unannounced.
Well, we did announce this parking work session, so anything's on the table.
I feel comfortable leaving at the fee it is right now until we get the further data, and then we'll have a better, clear idea of where do we actually stand, because today we don't know for
Okay.
sure.
All right, so, did we answer, okay, the last thing I want to mention, the 2-hour parking, I'm fine for simplicity and implementation's sake to keep it there now, but again, thinking about where we're going, most people, what's important for business is turnover, and if somebody sits in a parking lot longer than they really need to, that is a problem for the businesses. And what we know is that 2 hours, most people don't need 2 hours for what they're doing downtown. They need 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, even 90 minutes is a pretty long time for most people and what they're doing, kind of going downtown to do some shopping or whatever. So ultimately, I would like us to move towards 90 minutes, even going to 60 minutes at some point. But I understand for simplicity's sake, do it 2 hours, so we're not doing a whole big change right now. But as part of the future plan, I think that definitely should be reduced down to at least 90.
So I just want to be clear, if we open it up to everybody, and getting rid of the Valley Bank lots parking spaces, there are not going to be any more available permits. Is that correct?
Are you asking me? I mean, if you open
I
it up,
suppose I am, yes. But you said a couple of minutes ago
if you
that because
open it up
you
to
get-
everybody, I guess to clarify, does that mean if you open up that anybody can get a permit, any business owner, or what do you mean?
No,
by
I'm
that?
sorry. If you had a permit in the Mountain Valley lot, but now you were able to park everywhere, you were just talking about the number of permits that we have and the number of available spaces. If we got rid of the Valley Bank lot, the number of current permits would then exceed
It would.
the total amount of parking spaces available in totality.
I'm going to guess would be 120 capacity of spaces, which I would actually guess is probably fine. 120%.
So there wouldn't be any additional availability?
No.
Okay. For now.
If there is any issues there, not accounting for, do you make those angled spots by depot permit parking? You got First Avenue, which, Karen, on First Street, north of Linderman, aren't those say permit on them as well, and those spots are always empty. But
the northeast lot, and those are permitted spaces.
so those as well. They're just I said, there's a lot of underutilized. The question will be, the one benefit to increasing the permit cost would be those people that are holding on to them just for holding on to them, may get rid of them, and it would address your concern potentially. But I think that's something we may need to address if it gets to a point where a business owner isn't able to obtain a permit, and then we're still seeing these lots empty. We would want the ability to issue that permit.
And how fast would it be to get the signage up for people to know? How long will it take to do that part?
Well, the 2-hour parking is already, for the most part, in place. That's the benefit of that. The wayfinding signage is a bit different. It's more the design of it. So, what it's gonna look like and all of that. So, as was mentioned by Lorraine, they applied for a grant. Certainly the Valley Bank lot, and making that pretty clear to the traveling public that that's a public parking lot will be pretty critical. So dealing wayfindage on that. And then I think working with them to the business owners, I think a lot of the business owners don't even know these lots exist, and especially knowing where they can park and that they can park anywhere. Wayfinding will be important, but certainly the information of where they can park for the employees is less about wayfinding. It is just knowing, that those are there.
How long ago did we put up the wayfinding signs? Do you remember when that was?
I think it's 2015 or 16. There was kind of a
So
two-step.
about 10 years ago?
Yeah,
Okay.
We're talking about the purple ones.
yeah.
One last thing, you had a parking recommendation a couple months ago, about a 30-minute spot.
Yeah.
And we haven't been talking about it, but it'd be great to roll that back in.
Yep. Yep.
What was the decision on Valley Bank lot in particular? Are we?
2-hour parking, not permit parking anymore, but 2-hour parking.
And so Valley Bank everybody who has permits for Valley Bank will have,
Parking one.
will have to go to the Keno lot.
Yes.
Okay.
Or Skyline or.
Yeah.
I think we'll likely have to offer refunds to everyone because we're changing drastically what
The terms, yeah.
they've been given right now. So just to see what impact our permits, about 70,000 a year in revenue from permits for the lots is what we currently get. And then we just have to see how many people don't want permits. If it doesn't mean they get the lot specifically that they want, that might change how many we have open.
Great.
So we offer a refund if they don't want to participate in the existing system, but if they do, we don't have to refund them. Okay. Are you all feeling comfortable with that?
So it's the 40 or 44, I forget, that we're talking about just for now.
There's 45 current
45,
permits for the,
And how much are each of those?
sorry.
I'm just thinking of the potential loss, I just want to know how much I'm giving up before it, yeah.
There's 45 current permits in the Valley Bank lot. Valley
Okay.
Bank lot is one of the most heavily permitted lots, used lots.
Okay.
It does sit vacant a lot, but it has the most permits purchased.
And how much are those permits are they all the
Valley
same
Bank
length
are
and
the
price?
most expensive permits.
Of course it would be.
Yeah. Valley Bank and Eagles are the two most expensive lots.
Okay.
So we get the most permit revenue out of those lots.
And how much is a permit approximately?
$33 a month,
33 a month, okay.
paid monthly.
And most of them are a year commitment?
Not necessarily,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Those are also the most valuable to the downtown business owners.
So they're going to be, are they on board? They've been part of this process, right? So hopefully that will help.
That's the lot they recommended, yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing, I'm asking. Yes, okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, city manager report.
Not a lot to add, other than do got a meeting next week. We'll have the public participation plan, a recommendation from the planning commission, and do have a community report from James Pike, Flayette County Behavioral Health Supervisor. It's kind of the head over the co-responder program. And for tonight, that's all I've got.
Council reports. Start with you, Mr. Fisher.
I just want to say that this was, what I love about city government is this is something, when we surveyed the downtown business owners, they said this is our number one issue. And the fact that Downtown Forward put together a proposal that we've spent the entire night talking about it and are specifically addressing the needs of our downtown, it's really awesome. So I appreciate all of your engagement in this process, and I'm sure it'll be a evolving solution.
Yeah, sort of echo, just appreciate again, Bill and Downtown Forward for all the work to have this conversation. When I first got on the city council in 2017, this was one of the first things that Bill Goldberg across, Goldman across the street. Was it Goldberg? Thank you. Bill Goldberg gnawed on my ear about the need for
you're right. That long ago, it wasn't Goodman.
Goodman. Very confusing
Sorry,
when the
had to think
KM
of
building
that.
goes from Goodman to Goodwin. But the persistence of this issue and us not doing something, it's great to actually see us take some action and see where we are, see what we can do, but also look at a long-term plan.
I guess I'll just echo two things and then one small piece we didn't talk about. I really appreciate, one, having the community involvement and the staff also being able to answer questions. And then also just all of us being able to talk with discourse that's thoughtful, measured. So I really appreciate that. And I'm excited to see something happen because I know a lot of people have talked to me about, you have got to get this fixed. So I'm happy that it's here. I also had several people come up to me this week and talk to me more about the cruising on Friday night. And I learned more about e-bikes and middle school students racing down the street on e-bikes, which was new for me. I hadn't heard that, and I did not see that. So I just want to, again, request that we have some sort of work session to really look at that, because it's coming up a lot. And I can't even go to the bathroom and someone at work finds me, and I'm now really got to go to the bathroom when I'm listening to their pain, and I can't interrupt them because they're very upset, and I understand why they're upset. So I'm just going to bring it up again and be a politely persistent council member in that regard.
I would just echo everyone else, but I would also like to say, I think you're taking on a big project, and I think you know that, and it's going to be two sides working together to get this done, because I think we will find businesses that aren't necessarily all in favor of it, but we're going to have to work together and stand up strong together to make sure that it comes out good. So.
Likewise, thank you guys for all this work. This is a lot of effort as I stumbled down the rabbit hole myself, and I'm still going. I know there's a lot to it. There's a lot more to learn. So I'm glad to see such support for recognizing that free parking is not free, and that we do need to be getting the value for this land, this very valuable land in our downtown, needs to be priced appropriately. So I'm glad to see these conversations. It's going to help the downtown issues in general. And then on a completely separate note, we did have a trip to DC, so I wanted to thank Jared and Ryan for a successful trip. It was good first time doing my civic duty in DC, not as a tourist, so that was good.
What did you learn?
And my condolences first to Sam for not being able to go with your grandma. But I learned to break in my shoes better before I go. I learned that. That was probably my number one takeaway. Day one was I didn't fail to break in my new shoes. No, but it was really good just to see all the process, all the different aides and staff involved, and it's just there's a whole lot of work that goes into all that stuff, and the gears turn slowly up there as well they do down here too. But it's good to get faces to the names and get our needs up there in front of those people. So it was a good trip. So, thanks.
Yeah, I'll finish up. Again, echo everybody. Thank you all for bringing this proposal forward. I think, one, it's clear so much work went into it, a lot of thought went into it, and it really helped structure the conversation. And I think that's something we needed. Obviously, everybody's in agreement that something needs to happen, and I don't know that we're there yet in terms of the ultimate solution, but we're starting with something. I think I just emphasize that with the public, that we're starting with something. This isn't going to necessarily be where it ends up. We're going to try something, test the data, see where we're at, and see how that moves us forward. So definitely a preliminary effort here. In terms of the trip to DC, yes, I echo, it was very productive. We had some good meetings with our congressional delegation, with Department of Transportation, National Endowment of the Arts. We identified some additional funding sources that we might be able to apply for different efforts that we have our eye on for the city. We obviously got our congressional delegation on board with our Build Grant application and Safe Streets for All application that's coming. So, sometimes you wonder if the cost of flying out there and the hotels and time out there is worth it. But I think after this trip, for me, I always felt it was worth it, but definitely after this trip, I can see the benefits that it will come back many times fold to the city. In terms of benefits. So it's worth that outlay of cost to go out and do those trips for sure. Wanted to address, there was some public comment, the person has left, but I believe they were talking Evergreen, that's outside the city. Was he, depending on where he's at, yeah, he may be outside the city, but speeding is something, we hear a lot. I say this all the time to people. We are looking to develop a traffic calming policy to see what we can do about that. It has to move beyond police enforcement because police cannot be there all the time. And so it's, police enforcement is a good, but not ultimately the ultimate solution to those traffic concerns, and also learning that the state does not allow traffic speeding cameras. So we hear that a lot. Put a speeding camera on my street or this street, that street. We're not allowed under state law to do that. So that's not an option to us. In terms of crews, I do not want to be the barrier to another work session. If there's majority support in the council. I did want to have some structure to it because I could just see that being a really long conversation without anything coming from it. So, ultimately, I would like to see a proposal that we are discussing. That's what I'm looking for. But if there's the desire to have it without a proposal and just have that conversation, then I don't want to be a barrier to that. But
No, I appreciate what you're saying. I think a proposal would be good. What is the best route to pursue that?
Well, I know Mr. Leffridge is talking to folks about ideas. Mr. Nygren has some ideas. The chamber is exploring some ideas. So I think, those conversations are happening. The question is, kind of what do we settle on? What's doable, practical, and we'll actually address the concerns and try to meet those needs. So it's really kind of corralling those conversations and settling on something that's kind of concrete that we can discuss.
Could also look at the work session that council did previously, if you haven't already.
Okay.
Because staff did propose some options that didn't go with, so certainly could revisit those options, which were, there was a couple ordinance proposals that other municipalities have used. So you could take a look at that, not saying that that was the path forward, but they were just a couple options that were discussed at that time and whether or not those would be worthy of consideration or something else, so.
I mean, yes, previously we talked about regulating cruising, the number of times a vehicle could pass through town over a certain amount of time. That was one of the proposals. Enforcement, greater enforcement is, something that's happening, but we can talk about whether there's, more we could do there. There's also, proposals for strengthening our noise ordinance and what our noise ordinance looks like in terms of vehicle noise and use, frankly. So there are a number of directions we can go with that.
So how about I get together with Mr. Leftridge and the folks out in the galley, and we'll come back.
Sounds good. Okay, with that, we're adjourned.
Thanks.